Welcome to 5 and 5 from the One Stop Co-op Shop, where I discuss 5 key elements of a game in about 5 minutes. I'm Michael Kelly, and today I'm looking at Sail, a quick 2-player trick-taking game. And disclaimer that I was sent a review copy of this one. I am in love with the recent trend of cooperative trick-taking games with The Crew and the Fox and the Forest duet, to name a few. How does Sail stand up against that competition? Let's find out and get to the list. So for my number 5 point, which is generally a mix for my taste, I'm looking at the pirates that give a lot of the variety to the game, and they'll give you ongoing special powers to go for, generally encouraging you to get certain combinations of cards to get a really cool bonus or ability. On the positive side, these do feel super cool when you get their powers to fire off, and it gives a little bit more depth to the card play and what combinations you go for. But on the negative side, many of them have powers that are a little bit too difficult to consistently use. They might only come up once or twice in the entire game, so that's not too exciting for variety's sake. And also a minor nitpick is that technically by the rules, you're allowed to pick whichever ones you want, so I found that my son and I tended to kind of find ones that we were consistently good at and use them over and over again. But you can just house rule it to have each player get a random one and roll with it. And I think that would be to the game's credit, again, to make the variety better, because there's not that much variety in the core gameplay besides these cards. My number 4 point, though, for my taste is a full-on pro, and that's the Kraken Damage mechanic. So you have 1s and 2s out of the 9 cards in each of the 3 suits in the game, and they're going to start out of play in this Kraken deck. But then as you do dangerous things like going through tentacles and pushing your ship too hard, they're going to go into the deck. Because one of the core conceits of trick-taking games is that you want to keep track of which colors have been played and which values, and having these cards come into the deck and then back out again, because you can remove them with the right actions, changes up the feel of each round of trick-taking and changes up the calculation, changes up what you're keeping track of and not keeping track of. So I really like that. The whole push your luck thing is interesting. You have to consistently get them back under the Kraken card, otherwise you're going to lose the game automatically if the whole deck runs out. So it's a fun give and take, and again, it changes up the trick-taking picture in a fun way. Coming next to my number 3 point, this is also a pro for my taste, and that's the core ship movement in the game. So basically what you're trying to do is get your ship from left to right to reach the goal, but there's islands in the way, there's tentacles to avoid, and you're playing cards in combinations to get the ship to move, usually diagonally. But whoever is at card has the higher value, that's the one you move towards in that diagonal direction. So this fun little give and take of trying to thread the needle between places, of trying to move forward consistently enough while managing the tentacles of the Kraken that I already mentioned, it's really fun. I mean, it is the core kind of focus of the game, but it's a fun way to add some concrete elements to the basic trick-taking formula and give more of a feeling of real-life achievement with your actions and card plays. So I really enjoy it overall. But what I don't enjoy, heavily related to the movement, is my number 2, a full-on con, for my taste at least, and that's the variety in scenarios. Because you got the learning scenario, scenario 1, scenario 2, 3, 4, 5, a bit more in the expansion, and what do? They push the goal back a little bit farther, and the things are in different places. And that's it. Because basically, the only difference in the scenarios, mainly because the actual things you're moving around don't really change that much, is how fast you have to go. So really, it's just a difficulty level. And that's it. If you're looking for vastly different things to encounter and things to move through, even with the expansion, they only add a few more things to interact with, which are fun and kind of positive if you can reach them, but not that varied. Really, the core thing you're doing every game is basically the same, and that's the negative for me with this. Now, most trick takers don't add a lot of variety. The Crew is kind of a happy difference from most trick-taking games. But, spades, hearts, bridge, etc., you're doing the exact same thing every time in those games, too. So maybe this isn't a big deal for some people, but yeah, for me, I just wish the scenarios had changed things up more. I wish there was more terrain, more variety in what you would encounter. As it is, it wasn't that exciting for me. But what is full-on exciting for me is the core trick-taking play, and that is a full pro in my book. So it has the regular stuff, right? Where I'm playing a card, you're playing a card, oops, mine's higher, I capture the trick. But you're looking at the combinations of icons on the cards. And if you get the right combinations, then you move, then you get rid of the tentacles, then you get fun little combos where you have cannon special effects. And trying to figure out how to make those combinations happen, which cards to lead to, which colors you want to empty out, so then you can play out of suit to get the combinations even more easily. That's all great. But what really elevates this in a tense way is the trick track. So So each player is keeping track of how many tricks they've won, and once one player gets 4 tricks, that's it. The round's done. It doesn't matter if your partner's gotten 0 tricks and you barely accomplish anything. So beyond the basics of just trying to interestingly capture tricks and get your combos to go off to move your ship and everything, you're having to really carefully go back and forth and try to give each other the lead and all this stuff with your tricks. It's great. It's a nice variation on the basic trick-taking formula, and again, I really enjoy it. So overall, I can recommend Sail if you like trick-taking games or have always wanted to try one and want a quick playing one to get into and experiment with. But if you're looking for a trick taker with a lot of variety game to game, thinking like The Crew or The Crew Deep Sea, this one doesn't quite measure up, so you might get a little bored. But thanks for watching, everybody. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.